Okay, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So we're going to be doing partings for your medium knotless braids, or for, in my case right now, this is my medium extra full knotless braids. So I do use knee braids on this client's hair. I also use magic fingers as well. Sometimes I use lock and gel. It depends, but we'll do a different video on products. So for my medium knotless braids, from the tip of the ear down to the nape, I do 3 parts. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start off with this first part. One thing you do want to go ahead and note is sometimes in the nape area, you have to make that part just slightly bigger than what you would for the other sections, just because in the nape area, the client's hair tends to be a little bit more fine. So you want to always make sure you're creating balance. So with that, in order to create that balance and that structure so that you're not causing any extra tension and causing any clients to have traction alopecia in that nape area, you may have to go slightly bigger on that part. For this particular client, for the most part, all of her hair did have a good amount of density. She has highly dense hair, and so her nape area wasn't too bad. I did go very slightly bigger to create structure around the sides, because the braids that are on the sides may tend to have a little less hair, but nonetheless, it still looks and appears to be the same size as the next parts that I'll be creating. So we went ahead, we did that first part. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take this section here and I'm gonna split straight down the middle so that we can have our second and our third part within this area. When creating your parts, you do want to use a little bit of product, not a lot of product. You can barely see much product on my fingers. We're going to use that to trace the part. This is going to help you create clean, structured parts and to make them really crisp. And in order to do that, after I trace the part with the jam or whatever your product of choice is, I then kind of push it into the hair and kind of mold where I'm gonna have my sections. And as you can see, I use that with the teeth of the comb. Sometimes I flip it over and I use the back of the comb. Like now, I'm using the back of the comb just to mold. And that helped me clean up my part a lot better. Now with your pre-parted sections, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna create a twist, a braid. Sometimes you can do your flat braids, whatever it is. I don't know why in the back of the head, I always do like take the whole section, I create a single braid. But once I get to the top of the head, I start to create a flat braid, like an actual cornrow braid. That doesn't matter, just as long as you're not creating too much tension when you do this, because you know, you don't need to have tension on top of tension on top of tension, okay? So we got our 3 sections down already. Now from these 3 sections here, we're gonna then move over to your right section, and you're just gonna use your guide from the other 3 sections to line out the parts over here. Now something I do want to note here is I did go I slanted up a little bit too high when I was creating her parts from the tip of the ear over across. I will fix that later on off camera as I start to work on the top section. But if you look at her right ear, it's just a little bit too high. But I'll fix that later. So make sure and keep that in mind too as you're creating your sections. This is your opportunity to be able to fix any errors that you've made. So we're gonna go ahead, and so I've traced and outlined for that right section using the guide from the left section's part, if that's making sense. And we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna continue creating this. Okay, now we've went ahead and we finished your 3 sections for the back area of the head. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward to doing the front left section of the head here. So I went ahead and I just repositioned my camera so that we can get a good angle at this. Now, from the tip of the ear all the way up to the top of the head, you're going to have 5 sections for medium knotless. Again, I'm doing a service that I call medium extra full that was created for people with fine hair, even though they're the ones who booked this service the least. That's a whole nother story. So for me, I'm going to be creating 6 sections above. Again, this is for a service that I call medium extra full. So I'm going to take the hair at the top and I'm going to split straight down the middle. And I'm pretty good about eyeing what's half and half. But as you go, sometimes you may end up creating that middle part and it's not actually in the middle. You can fix that later on. This is just to help me get a guide. Also, my guide is those back partings. I look at those and I eyeball those and I can tell about how big each section is going to be. Okay, so we're just flipping here. I'm looking, I'm measuring, kind of pull the hair up and down because that helps me to get an eye glance on what it is that I'm doing. I'm still going to continue to create the same exact thing as I did before. I'm going to use my product to trace out my parting. I'll then mold that product into each section and then retrace again to help make this line a lot crispier. And we're going to continue to do that again for this same section up the top of the head. Now, one thing you want to note when moving up to your client's head is you want to keep in mind how the front hairline appears. A lot of people tend to have your head goes in narrow when you're getting to the front section of the hair. So sometimes when you're creating these parts, you have to slant down in order to follow that narrowness. Otherwise, you're gonna lose the shape of your boxes, if that's making sense. For this particular client, she's like me. She team big head. She team big forehead. So, and I can say that because me and her, we laugh about this all the time. Okay, we got a 5 head, and that's okay. So for her, I tend to not have to slant down in that motion. It's very little, where there's other clients where you have to slant down a lot more. It's almost like you're creating a cone shape or going down into a triangle shape. Just to follow the shape of the head. That's another thing that we have to always keep in mind, that we're following the shape of that client's head, and no 2 clients are alike. Everyone's head shape is different, so you have to just look at it and make it make sense for yourself. Okay, so we went ahead and we already have our 3 sections for down at the bottom. Now we're going to do our next 3 sections that are going up to the top of the head. Okay, again, these are going to be the same exact sections, same exact size, same exact way of doing it, using your product and tracing out. Once you are done, your left section should look like this. We have 6 even parts. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same exact thing on the right side. The same exact thing. If you are splitting this down the middle and everything is proportioned, that the middle part line with the client's nose, this should be a no-brainer. This should be very easy to do. Okay, so now that we finished the front left and the front right sections, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna create the same 6 partings in that middle portion of the head. And in order to do this, I always start from my middle part. Again, I'm really good about eyeing my parts, and I'm able to eye from the middle part of how big this section needs to be to meet over to that first parts section. Okay, you can definitely do it from your left side and do it from the parts and meet over to the middle if that makes it easier for you. You can definitely do it however it is that you need to do, but for me, I can actually do this by eyeing it, okay? But we're still gonna create that same balanced part, the same thickness from this middle is gonna meet over to that first part above her left ear. And we're gonna continue to do this up to the top of the head. Okay, now we are up at the top section of the hair. We got 4 parts left. Here you'll get a better view of what I meant by instead of coming from the middle of the head and meeting over to your part, you're gonna come from the part, just like now, you're gonna meet over to the middle of the head. And as you're doing this, again, it does take eye coordination of just looking at it and eyeballing the sections and making sure that everything measures out the way it needs to. So you'll see that I'm going to start to kind of pull the hair up, flip it up and back, look at it. I'm checking my size and I notice that it's a little bit narrow in the back. So I'm going to grab some extra hair from the top and I'm going to meet over to my part like I need to. And I'm going to continue to clean up my part until I get that exactly how it is that I want it to be. Her hair, her scalp doesn't actually move too much. She doesn't have one of those scalps, but as you can see, I am just checking for that because some people may not have that movable, posable scalp, but certain sections of their skin is softer than others where it is movable. And I'm kind of getting to that section of her hair now. So I'm being very particular and making sure I'm being very precise here to make sure these parts are going to line up with each other. I'm going to continue this all the way up and then we'll work on the right side sections. Okay, now we're just gonna section this last part off, and your whole left hand side is gonna be completely done. I'll do the right side off camera just because it became a little bit repetitive here to save some time. That right section is done. Once you're completely finished with everything, you'll have a full head of pre-parts for your medium knotless, and it'll look like this. From this portion, in my next video, I'll show you guys from this same client how I start off doing my brick layers to create the perfect full-size knotless braids. This will be the finished product of it. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to my channel. Make sure you comment, like, and most of all, subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos.